If someone tells you or you read online that you gotta crank your griddle temperature up to high, I'm gonna give you 6 reasons why that's probably wrong. We're talking about meat. So this is the idea. I have ground beef right here, but this is going to illustrate something that is thin. Now granted, thin could be a thin pork chop, a thin piece of fish, a thin piece of chicken. The idea is thin. We got some thick cut pork loin chops, no bone. We have some steaks here, and I'm going to illustrate a certain pinpoint example on the griddle that I want you guys to look at. It's like a highlight feature. And then we also have some bone-in chicken because, once again, we're going to illustrate why we don't need to cook on high. Welcome to our new Wednesday series. We're going to give you some quick tips to be a better griddler. I'm illustrating 2 different griddles to prove a point. We have the Traeger Flat Rock and we have the Blackstone. They're the only 2 griddles I have that are 3 burners each. So I'm going to be able to illustrate the difference in the temperatures in this whole video. Both of these griddles have been on high for roughly 10 minutes. Each griddle is able to reach temperatures over 600 degrees. Now that I've showcased the high temps, because we did not cook on high, I'm going to keep both griddles the same. The right side is going to be high, the middle is going to be medium, and the left is going to be low. While my griddles are calming down and getting to the temp that we desire, I'm gonna go ahead and prep this meat to show you. Tip 1, high heat does not mean better cooking. A lot of you griddle owners think that just because it's hot, that means that you're cooking your meat faster, you get a better sear, you get better flavor. But most griddle food that we've found is better on a medium to medium high. The second tip I can give you, every griddle cooks differently. Every griddle heats differently. One griddle on low might run like a medium to medium high for another brand or another griddle. Some have hot spots, some have cold zones. Some griddles run hotter than what the actual knob suggests it runs. The biggest illustration I can give you is when somebody comments or says, the only way to get a good sear in the steak is to have high temperature. The reality is, once you look at this was about 620 degrees, this is about 520 degrees, and this is about 430 degrees. I think personally that you can't tell the difference in the sear zones, which goes to show you that you do not have to cook on high. You save propane and you're getting equal results. If you notice the chicken here, if we keep going on high, you will burn the outside of the chicken before the inside of the chicken is done. Now looking at the Blackstone, this is a perfect illustration how not every griddle is the same. And this is a very different result with the same knob settings. 2 bullet points, 2 hyphens really quickly. Obviously, if you're throwing a lot of food on the griddle at one time, it will lower the temperature of the griddle. So imagine like a foot pedal on a car, right? You don't take out in the neighborhood flooring it. You kind of like build up speed or getting on an entrance ramp to the interstate. You push the gas pedal down, your car accelerates, and then you let off the gas pedal. Same thing with these. If you turn on high to get to the temps you want, then you back it down, I can understand. If you throw a lot of food down, you might want to crank that dial on high depending on what griddle you have. But once it's up, that's when we start adjusting the knobs back down to get that cruising temperature that we need. I already know what you're thinking. Another tip. If you can't cook on high, then how do you adjust your temperatures? You control your griddle, right? You're the ones that control the knobs. I like to cook in zones. I always like to have a little hotter side than a cold side, and this is why. Perfect example. When you got meats that are thicker, sometimes you need to go to the cooler side of the griddle to allow that temperature to build up on the proteins, or you can dome it. That will also trap in the heat as well. This has been on like the medium low. How much more browning we're able to get, rendering that chicken fat out and just moving these over. See how different that one looks? That was the one on low. What temperature is that?
160.
Exactly. Look at the difference. That's not even cooked yet, and this is already up to temperature. And then if you wanted to, you can move it over and finish and render that skin out for a pretty presentation. Why does all this matter? Because each protein needs to be cooked to a certain temperature. You might like your steak at like 120, that's on the rare side, but it'll carry over, so let's say 125 to 130. But we know that we have to cook chicken higher than that. So when you're probing your chicken, you know that you're trying to reach about 160 to 165 degrees, depending on if it's breast, thighs, you name it. And of course, that reiterates the idea that I'm trying to preach. On high, you run the risk of burning the outside of your proteins before the inside is cooked. As you can see, I'm using the middle part of the Blackstone because we're getting a fantastic color while not really blitzing the outside and overcooking. Coming up to temperature very nicely, and we are almost there. So we talk about zone cooking, since this is still on high and we're almost there, let's go and move it over and utilize the sear zone that you've created to render that fat just a little bit more. The one thing I do want to mention through this whole process, I did not season a single bit of protein. And why? Because seasonings, whether it's mine or anybody else's, has a really high chance of burning because of all the items in there. Salt you can probably get away with. Even black pepper has a tendency to burn, especially when you're cooking on a high heat. So this illustration was completely without seasoning. I guarantee if we added seasoning to the proteins, the results would have been even worse. Smash burgers. I hear it all the time. You have to have the highest heat possible. Honestly, I prefer about 450. So if your griddle on high reaches about 650 degrees, that's a big disparity. More propane for the same results. Plus, I think if you're out at that 450, maybe 500 mark, I think it actually keeps a juicier smash burger. We're going to illustrate it. We're going to use both griddles to illustrate. About 450 degrees. Over here, we're going for about 500 degrees, maybe 525. And this where we cranked it up on high, and we should be above 600 for about 650. About 450. About 550 and about 650. And I'd just like to point out, if you could get the same results at 450 that you can at 650 degrees, the amount of heat that rises off your griddle is insane, right? If you're working on the griddle at 650 degrees, there is so much ambient heat. It kind of like burns your arms. It's all in your face. Like it's intense. It's intense. Same amount of time on all three. I know it's kind of a little bit longer video, but it's not a one size fits all. Listen, once you learn your temperature control, everything gets better. Your fried rice, your breakfast, your hash browns, your pancakes, your eggs. Think about it, right? Everything needs a different temperature. So just to think that you have to turn everything on high is hopefully something that we proved today that's just not correct. Look, online, we have a magnet, right? A lot of people enjoy these things. You stick them to your griddle, stick them to outside appliance. It's just like a fresh reminder of what type of temperatures that we recommend when it comes to different items. If you notice, I'm just going to scroll through there really quick. I do not think we have anything on there that's even above 500 degrees. So on the Traeger and even the Blackstone, when you crank it on high and the thing's 550 to 600 degrees, for what? You don't even need it. So if you go online and you don't want to buy the magnet, this is a free printable version. Same thing, you can laminate yourself. Quick guide just to go back to those temperatures. You control your griddle, right? Whether you need to learn your edges, whether they're cooler, whether you want that higher zone for a good sear to move it off, kind of like a cooler side, whatever it is, hopefully we can help you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button, pound the notification button, share with your friends. Peace.